I pledge allegiance All right, good evening, everybody, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge and thank Mr. Johnson and Mr. Willis, and the members of the high school orchestra for their beautiful performance. Okay, and let the record show that all board members are present, with the exception of Mr. McGinnis and Ms. LaRosa. All right, and I have a couple of announcements I'd like to make before we begin. All right, so recently the issue of quarantine in my family has been a hot topic all over social media. So I'd like to take the opportunity to personally address exactly what took place. On day 8 of quarantine, my daughter tested negative for COVID, and I was informed by her doctor that she could attend a non-school sanctioned and non-Section 11 sanctioned dinner event. Because I listened to the doctor, I made a decision as a parent, I allowed her to go. As parents and as leaders, we're always making choices and decisions that we believe are in the best interest of our families and our students. Our decisions are based on information we receive. We must be able to place our trust in the experts. Sometimes the doctors, sometimes it's faculty, staff, sometimes it's students or parents. But we never mean to offend, and we are not perfect. At no time did I feel anyone she was with was in danger of contracting COVID. Looking back at this decision and seeing the reaction of my fellow community members, I accept the fact that this was a bad look. I truly apologize to anyone who I offended and angered. I at no time have ever, nor will I ever walk around as if rules do not apply to me, nor do I think I am more entitled than anyone else. Please understand that the combination of the negative test and the okay from the doctor was what contributed to my decision. I did not realize my decision would have such a profound impact on our community. I wish I could go back and change it, but unfortunately, that's not possible. It's a tough time for all of our kids, and I again apologize from the bottom of my heart. I am also disappointed that children have been exploited by some to make a personal point. I'm sorry that I put anyone in that position. But looking to move forward, I will not be answering any questions about this. I can only hope that you accept my apology, and that we can continue to work to ensure the best education for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Tossi. Just if I could interject one thing, and I know I appreciate your words, and I know for all of us out there, these are, as I explained in the last meeting, they're unprecedented times, and we're trying to make all the right decisions as parents, as people, as board members, and we try to listen and take on what we think is best, and sometimes that either isn't the best overall or is not perceived as the best, and it's tough. We're just humans here, and I feel your struggle with what you've just gone through, and I appreciate it as a parent and appreciate your explanation, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna. All right, I do have another announcement to make. I'm proud to announce that at the last planning session, we did accept the WIASA Memorandum of Agreement for their contract. The term will be from July 1st, 2021 through July 1st, 2025. Over the term of the contract, insurance contributions will increase to 20%. Orthodontic maximum increases to $3,000. For the current school year, the annual base salaries of building principals will increase by $10,000, and the annual base salaries of all other unit members will increase by $8,000. For subsequent years of the contract, salaries will increase by the allowable growth factor based on CPI, with a minimum of 1% and a maximum of 2%. Terminal pay increases to $50,000, and the value of career increments increases to $6,000. I'm also pleased to announce that we do have an update on the Massara Advisory Committee. Mr. McCann will be addressing that later during the Building and Grounds update. And just a reminder that all comment cards needed to be handed in prior to the first speaker. At this time, is there anybody who would like to speak regarding an agenda item? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the amended minutes of the November 4th, 2021 regular meeting and the minutes of the November 23rd, 2021 planning session?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and now some really, really exciting news. All right, so the West Islip boys soccer team won the state championship for the first time in school history. Winning is certainly not easy, and nobody wins alone. It was obvious that this team had the physical skills needed to dominate throughout the season and playoffs. However, this team had more. Every player and coach wants to win, but not everyone walks the walk. This team did. When the drudgery, pain, and frustration set in, this group of young men dug deep and battled. They held each other accountable and continually used a team-first mentality needed to complete this amazing journey. Congratulations to the coaches, to the players, and of course, your parents.
Well said, Mr. Tussey. So good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Moran, Director of Phys Ed, Health, Athletics, and Recreation for the West Islip School District. It's great to have this opportunity to celebrate our students in person once again. So on behalf of the West Islip Board of Education, I'd like to recognize and congratulate the 2021 West Islip Varsity Boys Soccer Team on their recent New York State Championship. This is the first Long Island and New York State Championship in the history of our West Islip Boys Soccer program. Quite an incredible accomplishment under the leaderships of coaches Eddie Piron and Brian Camera. These young men have exceptional skill, talent, and ability, and epitomize the true meaning of student athletes. They're a scholar-athlete team and demonstrated tremendous sportsmanship throughout the season, which was evidenced time and time again. The West Islip Interscholastic Athletic Program focuses on 4 C's, obviously the competencies of their sport, but equally focus on character, civility, and citizenship. And these young men have excelled in all 4 C's. Special recognition to the parents and guardians. Doesn't happen without a great support system. Thank you to the coaches for their expertise and leadership. Coach Piron actually was just recognized by his peers as the Suffolk County and New York State Boys Soccer Coach of the Year. And he shares this recognition. Recognition with his longtime assistant, Coach Brian Cameron, and a little trivia question. Who is the only West Islip coach in the history of West Islip to win a New York State Championship in 2 different sports? Coach Brian Cameron. Personally, I'd like to recognize and thank the West Islip Board of Education for their support and leadership during these very difficult times. The West Islip Board of Education continues to put students and student athletes first while abiding by local and state regulations, and they have provided a strong foundation for success, evidenced by our New York State Boys Soccer State Championship, and the success of all of our fall athletic teams, for that matter. They've had the opportunity to have truly priceless experiences and great memories that will last in a lifetime. I want to recognize the boys soccer media crew. Their families have been spectacular in terms of the media production team they've had, and they've captured all these moments, and many of those you'll see up here on the screen here, recognizing their success and their journey this past year. Special shout out to the West Islip Fire Department that met the team when they came home from Middletown and escorted them to town. Also recognition to Gary Kopsky, the former president of the West Islip Youth Soccer Club, and Mike Lombardi, who's our current president. I want to recognize Superintendent Burns, Dr. Brisbane, high school staff and faculty for helping shepherd them through this exciting time, and it really gave a great sense of community here in West Islip. And at this time, the time has come. Let's recognize these young men. Each member of the New York State Championship team, when I call your name, please come forward to the front here. You'll receive a certificate from the West Islip Board of Education. I've also had the opportunity to communicate with Legislator Flattering, and he wanted to congratulate the team and also provided citations here tonight, which you'll receive for each player. Supervisor Angie Carpenter will be providing recognition in the future, and we're looking forward to working with the soccer team and families to coordinate a date for a parade, a formal ceremony, and all that, the great excitement that you have in front of you. So congratulations to our soccer team. All right, starting this out, we'll go in alphabetical order. Joe Blackton. After you receive your certificates, just keep going across the front, and we'll line everybody up. Jacob Cassio. Nicholas Castellino. Jack Delapizzi. John Fucci. Derek Gildard. Vincent Greco. Lucas Iacono. Matt Kessler. Mike Krupski. Chris Leno. Dylan Latarja. Aiden Lodi. Aiden just was recognized as the Large School Soccer Player of the Year. Congratulations. Marino. Brendan McCann. Aiden McNally. Jesse Palmer-Combs. Vincent Puglisi. Aiden Richter. Zach Sayano. Noel Sliva. Jack Stepanak. Joseph Washington. And Coach Brian Cameron. Present to you the 2021 New York State Boys Soccer Championship team. Okay, we're good. Awesome. Congratulations, guys.
I would like to recognize Tim Moran, our Director of Athletics, Physical Education, Health, and School Nurses. My own personal observation is he never stops. He's often in the office before the sun rises, and he's there well after the sun sets, while a visible presence in our classrooms during the school day and athletic contests throughout the district. And I often marvel, how could he have just been on a field hockey field and I turn around and he's over on the Barbary field? So absolutely amazing. So Mr. Horan, you share in this honor, obviously, and we are so proud to have you work with us as a college.
Congratulations, guys. Great job. Great job. Congrats. Thank you.
This month, we also honor the dedicated service of our administrative team, our principals, assistant principals, directors, and assistant directors. I'd like to invite Mr. O'Farrell, Mrs. Walsh, Mrs. Dowling, and all of the other YASA members to join us down here in the front. So this is my 9th opportunity to recognize the members of WYASA, the West Islip Association of School Administrators, as their superintendent. Over these last 9 years, we have explored many opportunities together. Some amazing things have happened, some things haven't worked out, and they have met all of the challenges with confidence, professionalism, and grace. Never has this been more apparent than this year, a year fraught with situations and circumstances that are certainly unlike any that I have ever experienced or have preceded us. I think I speak for everyone when I say that of the 3 years affected by the pandemic, this has been the most challenging for us. Tonight, I would like to take this occasion to thank our administrators for their extraordinary leadership and passion and applaud their commitment to the children of West Islip. So on behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to present Mr. O'Farrell and WYASA with this certificate in recognition of the dedicated service of the administrative team to our West Islip learning community. Thank you.
Okay, and I also, just for the record, I'm sure you saw Mr. McGinnis came in. Mary, you got it? Good, thank you. Okay, personnel. Mr. Taylor.
May I have a motion for the approval of the personnel agenda as listed in your backup?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Curriculum update, Ms. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Good evening, everybody. Last week, our K through 5 students started their field trips to the high school planetarium. Throughout the next few throughout the next few months, all of our K-5 students will have the opportunity to visit and learn about stars, planets, and constellations within the newly renovated facility. They are very excited to get on the buses and head up to the high school to see Mr. Vitti and explore our new planetarium. In January, all K and 1 teachers will begin to receive Foundations training in preparation for the 22-23 school year. Foundations is a multi-sensory structured language program that supports the acquisition of foundational reading skills for students. Training will take place for K and 1 teachers throughout the second half of the school year and is a continuation of the district's ongoing literacy initiatives at the elementary level. The high school continues to review the information gleaned from the recently completed SEL student survey at the high school. Preliminary information indicates that 86% of the students responded favorably in the area of supportive relationships. 83% of the students responded favorably in the area of self-management. 69% of the students responded favorably in the area of positive feelings. 60% of the students responded favorably in the area of emotional regulation. Considering the impact that the pandemic has had on the mental health of people across the world, the globe, this is some positive news. When we compare it to the national data, West Islip was consistently in the 80th to 90th percentile in almost every area. Additional information will be shared in regard to the survey as it becomes available. Thank you, Mr. Tussey.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Morrison. All right, so we have a report on board committees, and at this time I'd like to have the Education Committee report by Mr. Antonello.
Thank you, Mr. Tussin. The Education Committee met Tuesday at 7 p.m. in the Beach Street School Library. In attendance were committee members, myself and Mrs. Brown. Other board members present were Mr. Tussey, Mr. McCann, Mr. Compitello. Administrators present included Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Pilati, and Mrs. Morrison. The first topic the committee discussed was the pre-K program. The board and the administration realized the importance of pre-K. The board voted to continue open enrollment and to provide necessary resources for its continued success. The second topic of discussion was the Reveal Math Pilot Program for grades K through 4. It is already being used in grade 5. The administration and the board believe it is a more user-friendly program for the kids and the teachers. One chapter will be piloted in grades K through 4. Lastly, we discussed topics pertaining to the high school. The Curriculum Council wants gradebook program to match up with regulations regarding the time return of graded items. The main goal is to prevent grades from being entered at the end of the quarter. In the selection for academic leaders, the committee wanted to add a panel interview to the process and incorporate that into the rubric. The IB program is conducting its review. That's done every 5 years to assess the program. And lastly, midterms will be back. I'm sure the kids are very excited about that. January 25th to the 28th, accompanied by a shortened period schedule. The meeting adjourned at 7:20 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Antonello. On to the Finance Committee, Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. The Finance Committee also met on Tuesday, December 7th. All board members, with the exception of Mr. McGinnis, were at the meeting. Administrators at the meeting were Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Pilati, Mr. Taylor, and Mr. Bassi. We reviewed the Treasurer's Report, the school district funds, and the extracurricular activities funds for October. We did the payroll summary, the financial statements also for October. We looked at the system manager audit trail, payroll certification, and a review of all the warrants. We reviewed Board of Education finance items, which are the budget transfers for the month, and the approval of a change order for A1 construction for $10,000. We also discussed an ongoing audit of the reserve fund balances that's been going on from the state for a little bit of time. I know that's been a topic of conversation as to what the description of all the fund balances are. Again, Mrs. Pilati has detailed all the fund balances and the allowable limit, and just as a check, the audit committee from New York State is auditing those, so we'll have a report on that when that is complete. So we'll make sure we're all aligned with where our reserve funds are allowable and what we are currently reserving for. So the committee adjourned and at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCann, and Mr. McCann with Building and Grounds. Thank you.
All right. Again, December 7th, Tuesday, the Building and Grounds Committee met. All board members were in attendance, along with Mr. Bossi, Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Pilati, and Mr. Taylor. We discussed many of the construction projects that are going on, and just to give an update, there are several different subsets of projects that are going on. We've got the district office security vestibule. We've got the solar panel projects, which are getting completed at Bayview and Okonock. That work's almost done. We are waiting for some parts because of COVID delays. Manatuck is the next one to start. The nice part about that project is we haven't experienced any really issues with educational concerns as the school days are going on. We're looking at a parking lot expansion at Paul J. Ballou as a current project. As we all know, that gets a busy parking lot with all the events that go on in that area, so we're looking at that upcoming. We reviewed the bond work that's going on, as long as the capital equipment projects. And the Capital Equipment Reserve Fund is a fund that we voted on about 3 years ago as a public to create this fund. We set aside money for capital improvement projects that are voted on again as we represent them. So we voted on some projects last year in the May vote. We'll have another list of projects to vote on. So as that money is accrued, we spend that on capital improvement projects to increase the look and feel of the district. The last item that we were excited to talk about was the Macera Advisory Committee. So we have gone through the process, the selection process. We had over 90 community members express interest in the Macera Committee. We've made the selection of 32 members on that committee. The emails went out, I believe, today. So we're going to start that process in January. It's going to take probably the course of at least 6 months. We're going to have Zoom meetings, in-person meetings. We worked with BOCES to bring in an independent consultant to help us really drive out the options that are available that the community wants, that are good for the community, that are fiscally responsible, and we're taking all the input. So that committee is exciting to start. Looking forward to working with everybody on that committee and really coming up with the best option and avenues for the Macera property. So if you know someone on the committee, you want to give them input, have that input in, we'll probably have an initial meeting sometime in January, and then start in-person meetings with the moderator, I believe in March, just availability time. So again, we're not in a rush to do that project. We want to get it started, and we want all of the input to be properly recorded, come up with groups, and get the best option for that property moving forward. So very excited that that's going on, and it was a long process in the making. Obviously, we had our concerns and focus in the last year was making sure the schools were open, kids were back. Well, that project is on track, and we're happy to say that committee has been selected and happy to start that. So meeting adjourned at 8 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. All right, Mrs. Brown will speak on behalf of the Special Education Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Good evening, everyone. The Special Education Committee met on December 8th at 8:30 a.m. at District Office. In attendance were myself, Board Member Ron McGinnis, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Dawn Morrison, Director of Special Education Jean Dowling, Assistant Director of Special Education Gail Dougherty. At the meeting, we discussed student placements and the upcoming budget season. The meeting ended at 8:50 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brown. Our Safety Committee update with Mr. Compitello.
Good evening, all. The Safety Committee met on 16 November at 08:30 at Paul J. Ballou Cafeteria. Members present, Mrs. Burns, Ms. Pilati, Ms. Morrison, Dr. Bridgman, Mr. Horan, Mr. Mr. Maniscalco, Mr. Marquardt, Mr. Mullins, Mr. O'Farrell, Mr. Fossey, Sean McAleedy, and myself. We talked about door strikes being needed at the elementary schools, lockdown recording for the blue light equipment, camera audit, and A+ maintenance for subject cameras. We also talked about designating a school safety officer to maintain the cameras. And there's some facility improvements needed as discussed at the Paul J. Ballou parking lot and the exterior lighting at the high school in Paul J. Ballou. We secured the meeting at 09:25, and more importantly, there's 122nd Army Navy game this weekend. Go Navy.
Thank you, Mr. Capitello. All right, Mr. McGinnis will present on the Audit Committee.
Thank you. The committee met on November 23rd. All board members were present. Administrators present, Superintendent Burns, Ms. Morrison, Ms. Pilati, and Mr. Taylor. The meeting began at 7:30. We met with Cullen and Danowski, who are our internal auditors. The meeting was to discuss the risk assessment report. All was found to be in order. They had focused on extracurricular accounts. Most comments and suggestions from prior reviews were found to be addressed. And the upcoming review will be for the information technology area. The meeting adjourned at 7:45.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGinnis. And finally, the Health and Wellness Committee with Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Must be my nice Christmas mask that I keep getting all these assignments, so thank you. The Health and Wellness Committee met on Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. It's a virtual meeting on Zoom. Members present were Mr. Haran, Mr. Urbano, Mr. McKay, myself, Mrs. Berline, Mrs. Marshall, Mrs. Curley, Mrs. Maletti, Mrs. Steinweiss, Mrs. Elefante, Mrs. Kearns, Mrs. Canestra, Mrs. Pratt, and Mrs. Seepy. We talked about the financial report, and we're in great shape. A great fundraiser from the Color Run. That was our next topic that we came up with. We had over about 400 participants in the Color Run. We had great sponsorship for the T-shirts. It was a wonderful day out there. Our largest participation to date. We had a great money raised for the fundraiser, and just a wonderful time. If anyone was at that event, myself was at that event. I know some of the board members here were at that event. Wonderful time for the community to celebrate, get out there and really have some fun running around the school and getting color dye thrown on you. We talked about our newsletter coming up. We're focusing on mental health, cybersecurity, social host laws, help hotlines, screen time. We're planning for a February release date on that letter, and members will submit articles to Mr. Haran. Essential Needs Pantry. All 7 West Islip Public Schools have a contact person. All communication is confidential. And we have other business that we're looking at bringing the Family Connect Nights back. If you remember 2 years ago, we had Family Connect Nights. We picked one night a month where there was no homework assigned, so any students out there probably love that. And I remember doing it with my family. It was a nice night where you could just get together, have a family dinner, and not have to worry about homework, and do what we had was the Connect. So we're looking at that. We had the PTSA social on November 18th. We discussed that. It was a great turnout. Thanks to everyone who helped arrange that. That was another great fundraiser, so thanks to all the people who donated baskets and participated in that. The West Islip Breast Cancer Awareness fundraiser, we donated $1,930 to the West Islip Breast Cancer Coalition. A wonderful organization, as you all know, helps you in time of need for those situations. If anyone doesn't know, it's right on Montauk Highway. If anyone has anyone going through that, please contact them. They're a wonderful organization, and we were proud to donate that money. Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 4th at 9:30. It's a Zoom meeting, and we wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and also Happy Holidays for all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCann. On to financial matters with Ms. Pilati.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. The Treasurer's report for the month of October had a beginning balance of $43,055,299.36 and an ending balance of $30,904,019.51. May I have a motion for the approval of budget transfers 4104 through 4114 in the general fund and 4107 for the capital fund?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the change order from A1 Construction Services for a credit in the amount of $10,000 related to work done at the West Islip High School?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Colati. All right, can I have an approval of the Winkler Real Estate Amendment number 11 to our contract?
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Can I have approval of the resolution regarding the destruction of unused and full ballot booklets from the May 18th, 2021 election?
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our superintendent's report, Ms. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. So as you probably realized as you walked in this evening, our concert season is in full swing, and the music and performances to date have really been inspiring. They are a visible example of the exciting work that is going on throughout the district in our classrooms. I encourage you to check out our Facebook page, where you will find the high school wind ensemble's performance from last night of its traditional concert finale, Sleigh Ride. It's really terrific. Last weekend, 2 of our high school students participated in the NYSBA All-State Winter Conference in Rochester. Vocalist Grace Minio and flautist Mark Perugine represented West Islip in fine form, and we look forward to recognizing our student musicians at our graduation. Last week, the district posted to its website a letter that was sent to Governor Hochul and the State Health Commissioner, Dr. Bassett. It addressed 3 issues: a request for data to support the need to continue with the universal mask mandate in schools, the weekly testing mandate for faculty and staff, including bus drivers, substitute teachers, student teachers, vendors, contractors, and other service providers, and the possibility of a vaccine mandate for students. When we receive a response from the governor or health commissioner, we will share it with the community. In the meantime, I learned that Governor Hochul announced today that schools will be directed to survey parents on vaccinations. I have absolutely no details. I do not know what. Can you say again? The governor is going to be directing schools, so she says, it's on her website today, and she tweeted it out. She plans on having schools survey parents about vaccinations. I don't know what that means. So as soon as we know exactly what is entailed, we will be sure to share that with you. Finally, I would like to wish everyone a very joyous, festive, and healthy holiday season. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Burns. Okay, before we invite the public to speak, I just want to remind everybody that we have 2 podiums. I will call 2 names up. One person will speak, and then when their 3 minutes is up, we'll have the other person. I also ask if the speakers could just state their name for the record, please.
Mrs. Tussey, I had one other thing I left off one of my reports. I had the pleasure of attending the SEPTA Trunk or Treat on Saturday night. It was a great event in the Beach Street parking lot. Thanks to SEPTA for arranging that. It was sort of like the Halloween trunk or treat. They had cars decorated in Christmas themes. We walked around and all the children got candy. It was a really wonderful event. The weather cooperated. It was beautiful out there. So thanks to SEPTA and all the parents and the community members who put that together. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McCann. All right, so the first speaker I'm going to call down to come up to the podium will be Tyler Burnett, and then on deck we will have Ruth Minio. Okay, Tyler, go ahead. Thank you.
My name is Tyler Burnett. I am a 5th grader at Oakwood, and I spoke at one of these meetings over the summer. I hope to attend 6th grade at Udall Middle School next year. However, if New York State mandates the COVID shot for kids, my parents will pull me out of school. A vaccine eradicates a sickness, such as polio. It has been proven that people who have gotten the COVID vaccine can still get it and spread it. This shot does not eradicate COVID. It is just like the flu shot. My parents have the right to decide what gets put in my body, not the government. Please fight for all the children in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you for being so brave to come up and speak. All right, thank you again. And before Ms. Minio speaks, can we call down Lori Kerner? You can come wait at the next podium. Thank you. Ms. Minio?
Hi there. I'm not going to take a long time. I just really, we had just gotten back from the All-State extravaganza, and when the speakers of NISMA talked to the families, they encouraged us to go back to our school boards and our superintendents and let them know what a great experience this was for our children. So I wanted to be, we're very grateful for that experience. My daughter, when I texted her while she was there, she said, "Mom, I'm having the time of my life." So I just wanted to be faithful to come back and just say thank you very much for the opportunity that you extended to children. And I hope that the children for many, many years in the future get that opportunity. And Grace just wanted to say thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for giving me, and I speak for Mark too, this opportunity to go and exhibit our hard work with a bunch of the other talented musicians of New York State. She wasn't lying when I said that this was the best weekend of my life, making music with a bunch of other passionate students. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations on your performance. All right, and before I have Ms. Kerner speak, we have Phillips is the name. You can come down and wait. And in the meantime, Ms. Kerner, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Tussey. My name is Dr. Lori Kerner. I've been a resident here for almost 30 years, which really kind of blows my mind. It makes me feel old. I've also been in the field of education for 32 years. I served as a teacher for more than a quarter of a century. I was an elementary school principal, and I currently sit in one of those seats in a very large district on Long Island. My current professional responsibilities require me to oversee all aspects of human resources, curriculum, and instruction. Those of you who know me know I'm a fierce child advocate. You also know I'm a mom of 4 children, all who have gone through this incredible school district, so I want to thank you for that. I have 2 thriving adults and 2 children in our high school currently. And I feel the anger. I mean, we're angry. Everyone's angry right now. We're scared, we're confused, we're uncertain. We have never experienced anything like this before. And our emotions are running high because we deeply, deeply love our children. And we want everything that we can do for them, and we want them to have the best future possible. But I had to share tonight that I feel that anger doesn't solve our problems. It divides us. And we want solutions for our children, and we want them now. But I have to tell you that we're navigating through very extraordinary times. And quite honestly, we're building the plane while we're flying it. And we never learned the how-tos, how to navigate a global pandemic in college, and I couldn't find it in the parenting handbook. But I propose that we come together and sit around the table and talk about our options and ideas of what we want for our children. It's in their best interest for us to come together and not be angry with each other. it's the holiday season, so I want to come from a place of gratitude. I want us to celebrate what we're doing really, really well, because we're doing so many things really, really well, especially under these circumstances. So I'm happy to host a roundtable, and I know that there's many people here who are happy to host roundtables as well, so I propose we connect following the meeting. And we're not perfect, but we are better together. We really, really are. Our differences in this community have made us a beautiful, thriving, compassionate community, and our children have been the beneficiaries of our ongoing, open, honest communication. We're their role models. We are their role models, and they are our future. So with that, I'd like to thank our faculty, staff, parents, families, our volunteer Board of Education, the most wonderful, happy holiday, and a healthy, healthy, healthy new year. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for those kind words. We wish you a happy holiday as well. All right, so we have Phillips, and coming up next will be Miss Walrap.
Good evening.
Please state your name for the record, please.
Karen Phillips.
Thank you.
I just want to congratulate again our boys soccer team and a great achievement that they had, the musicians, the artists, being able to see our students come back, the families being able to come back and see them. I am a little confused. I do know, Mr. Tussey, you said that you started this meeting actually with the fact that you would never intentionally come to the schools or cause or bring harm to others. Your pediatrician shared with you that the negative test, no fever, things like that, meant that your daughter was clear to come back, so I completely understand your confusion. My question comes from that same situation where I know someone who works in a school, tested positive, had to quarantine, but went to a doctor, went to their primary care physician, who said that when you are fever-free, after 24 hours, you are allowed to return back to work. People who he was in contact with were able to return back to work because they were vaccinated. However, he had to miss the 10 days of work. My question is, why is it that we must still quarantine for those 10 days when even our own doctors are now saying that when you're fever-free, you test negative, that you can come back? Our students, our children, our faculties are staying out for 2 weeks at a time, and our children are missing out, our faculties are missing out, when the doctors are even saying that they can return now. So my question is about the duration of that quarantine time when they're even telling us that we can come back. They can come back.
I can't speak for the individual physician, but we take our direction from the New York State Department of Health and Suffolk County Department of Health, and they do not recognize testing out of quarantine for those who are ill.
Okay.
As soon as we have an update, we got an update on something else yesterday, we share it, we try to implement it as soon as possible. Mr. Bowles, I just want to confirm what I just said to be correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Amanda Barber, I'll be next. Ms. Walrap. And again, if we could just state our name for the record, thank you.
Yes, sure. I'm Veronique Walrap. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to ask the board to hold any questions they have until the end so that I may attempt to get through this in my 3-minute allotment. I know Brexit is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. I can't tell you how often we've been asked on updates for that. As such, I wanted to give a quick revision of our numbers. Last month we had a total of 256 Brexits. Since then we've received an additional 53 forms. Our current total is 309 Brexits for West Islip students. And I have them all right here. I'd like to hand them in so you all have a copy. More of these are rolling in daily. If you need one, you can find one of us at the end of the meeting. Teachers, I know there are a lot of you here tonight, and there's something that I need to say to you. I have tremendous respect and appreciation for all that you do for our kids. It truly takes a special person to choose teaching, and after the last few years with the fiasco of virtual learning, I have more gratitude for all of you than I can possibly convey. My children thus far have been incredibly blessed in their teachers, and I am so thankful. It has come to our attention, however, that there are teachers among our community who do not wish for parental involvement in their classrooms. This is shocking and saddening, considering the well-documented studies outlining the importance of parental involvement in their children's education. I'm aware that at Manatech Elementary, for example, it was put to a vote whether or not to allow 2 parents per classroom for holiday parties. I do not know the exact outcome of that vote, but clearly more teachers voted against it than for it. As such, parents are not welcome in the classrooms for holiday parties this year. Another year of memories that can never be replaced. Another moment gone forever. I know that this policy is differing from school to school, even within our own district. This is just another example of the lack of consistency in policies. Now, to be fair, maybe this isn't the teacher's fault. This is something that never should have been put to a vote to begin with. It should be a foregone conclusion after the hell of the last 2 years that of course each class could have 2 parent volunteers. The fact that this was even voted upon is unacceptable. Our teachers are there to do a job. They are employees. They are the best paid teachers in the country. They are paid to teach our children. They are not paid to vote upon whether or not they would like the parents of the children in their classrooms to help out for a party. I am also aware that staff is, and I quote, uncomfortable with unvaccinated, untested parent volunteers. There are 20 other districts that we are aware of across the island that only require masks. This is a gross overstep of authority. The vaccinated can contract, spread, and yes, even die of COVID just as well as the unvaccinated. Mrs. Burns, we know that you and your team decided on this policy, and we know that our Board of Education is not overruling you in spite of the fact that it is in their job description, in spite of the fact that they have the authority to, and in spite of the fact that they signaled that this was not in line with their views and that they would rectify the situation. This policy is divisive. It is sowing hate. It is discriminatory. It is not equitable, and it is unacceptable. If you are a teacher that is uncomfortable with parents participating in their children's education, then maybe you need to question your motives. If you are a teacher and you voted not to allow parents in your classroom, then you are putting your needs, your wants, your desires, and your insecurities above the best interest of the children in your classroom. If this applies to you, please look within yourself and ask yourself if you made that decision out of your own interests or truly in the best interest of the children in your care. Our children have only one precious childhood. So much has been stolen from them already. When will we stop robbing them of these moments for our own selfish reasons?
Thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and I just want to confirm, Mr. Taylor, those are the exit forms that she handed you. Thank you. All right, before Ms. Barber speaks, can we also bring down Katie Florea? You can wait on deck.
Hi everyone, thank you again for your time. Happy holidays. My name is Amanda Barber for the record. I have 2 speeches and I'm kind of going to pull from both because I think they're both equally important. Dr. Brad Campbell is a doctor that's being silenced on social media out of Illinois because he speaks a lot of truth that goes against the narrative. He posted this morning about the youth mental health crisis that is related to the COVID shutdowns that are happening. The Surgeon General announced it today. It comes as no shock. I would imagine for many parents knowing that the mental health of our students is at deep risk right now. A lot of that has to do with our shutdowns, how the education system is being run right now, specifically with masks, social distancing, etc. And I want to talk all about that, but the problem is that we can talk until we're blue in the face about how the mask may be prohibiting their education, but it goes back to right now, your hands are tied. So I'm going to go to my original speech, which I want to speak about the ARP ESSER funding that West Islip School District accepted. I believe most people in the community are aware right now that the strings attached or the hoops that our district has gone through to obtain that type of funding. Here's a quick recap if you missed it. It was on a bunch of social media pages, and it's also located in these packets that Claude has, if anyone hasn't received it, to learn a little bit more about it. Our school district received $1.4 million in ARP ESSER funding. In order to receive the funds, our district has to meet certain guidelines. We must not only comply with existing directives and guidance, but unknown and future directives and guidance. The criteria we are required to fulfill is laid out by the Department of Education and can be found on page 31 on the Federal Registry. There are two key takeaways. The first is that the criteria states the school district must engage in meaningful consultation with their stakeholders, which is all of us. They are very specific on who they need to include. If you're in this room, that includes you. The consultation should provide the public the opportunity to put input and take such input into account. Our school district claims they met this criteria, but we do not feel as a district that it was honestly and transparent explained to us. If you'd like more information on this, like I said, Claude has more in the packet. But as parents fighting for choice, medical freedom, and body autonomy, the second key takeaway here is the most terrifying part of all. By accepting this funding, we are beholden to the guidelines set forth by the CDC. As outlined on page 35 of the Federal Registry site, a school district must include in its plan how it will follow the recommendation established by the CDC, which these recommendations include universal wearing of masks, physical distancing, improving ventilation, contact tracing, isolation, quarantine testing, and efforts to provide vaccinations to school communities. Each district is required to provide assurances in the ARP ESSER application that would, and I quote, implement prevention and mitigate strategies that are, to the greatest extent, practical, consistent with the most recent CDC guidance. We have done some foils recently from our district that we're revealing. Our first foil includes an email written by Mrs. Brown on June 28th of 2021. It reads, Bernadette and board members, I'm writing to request that the deadline of the ARP ESSA funding plan public comment survey be extended. In addition to an extension, I hope we as a group can support and advocate that the plan and survey be sent to the community via email and parent square. I've spoken to several community members that do not know about the the ESSA funding, nor do they seem to be aware that the plan and survey are posted for comment. I think it is great that the plan and survey are available on the website, however, no one in the community knows about it. Thank you for your attention. Clearly, at least one board member, thank you very much, was aware that this criteria was not being met. However, she was dismissed and ultimately no notification was sent. As of October 12th, only 2 people have taken the survey on the website. 2 of us. Does that sound like community engagement to you? No. I know my time is up. The bottom line is that we can talk here, all of us can talk until we're blue in the face about mental health, about how we want these masks off our kids, about how we want choice. But this $1.5 million tells us that there's nothing that we can say that's going to change anything here. That you guys don't have a say in whether or not these masks come off anytime in the near future. We sold our kids for 1.5 and it's really, really, really devastating. Thank you.
I reached out to State Ed and I reached out to the Deputy Director for the New York State Council and School Superintendents to get clarification. He explained that the federal regulations, the State Education Department application require districts to describe the extent to which they have adopted policies. It does not require districts to adopt the specific policies that you read. Likewise, it requires us to explain any such policies, but it gives us the opportunity to adopt some and not others. And what that means is we are not required, and I'll say at this time, because none of us know what the future may bring, to engage in all of those activities that you listed there. That is not what we signed up for. And I guess my next question would be, and maybe we could have a conversation about this at some point, is what do you feel that we are missing out of that grant? Because we were very, very careful as to what we were going to use the funding for. We still have the link posted on the website. We are required as part of the funding to continue to get feedback from our public. So that link is still open for you to share with us.
Was that survey sent out to the community? Was it sent out for us to fill out?
No, because if I send it out via Parent Square, it only goes to parents. It does not go to the community. So it is not actually getting feedback from the 27,000 people that live here.
Yes, but it's a school-based issue, right? The money's going to school kids, make decisions in the community based on for children. So wouldn't that be community members involved in the school district should be at least aware of the funding that we accepted?
That's why we posted on the district
But did you
website.
send out communication for that survey to be sent out?
No one knew it was there.
You had 2 people fill it out. Do you feel that's community engagement? I'm just trying to understand, because you put it on there and no one knows it exists. It's still there, but no one knows it's there. The only reason we know it's there is because we foiled it.
So one of the ways we can handle that is to put a blurb in our newsletters. So when that opportunity is right,
The funding was already accepted in fact. So
what I just shared with you is that is an open link. We are constantly getting feedback on that if you wish to share that with us. And we can go ahead and put a little blurb in our upcoming newsletter, which will probably come out sometime after the first of the year. I'm sorry? I just explained we can't use Parent Square because it is a targeted group of people. It does not go to the entire community.
Okay, so right now, the blurb in the newsletter will go out to every member in the community.
It is the newsletter, it's the Lion's Pride that you get home a few times a year.
But it will have a very, very easy to use link for those that are not, it's a survey online. So unless you're going to mail the survey in or put the survey somewhere that they can mail it back to you, there's a lot of people that don't have a computer.
Thank you for the feedback. We'll take that under consideration.
Okay, and this is Mrs. Florea?
Yes.
Okay, so before, I'll have Mrs. Calder come down. You're next. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Katie Florea. Tonight I would like to speak about a certain policy that the district is implementing. On page 19 of the school reopening plan for 2021-2022, it states, those who will be in proximity of students for indoor activities during the school day must provide proof of full vaccination or the results of a negative COVID-19 test taken within 24 hours of the visit. When asked why this policy was put into place, the response given seemed as if this protocol was a guideline implemented by the DOH or the commissioner. However, it is clear that the policy did not come from either source. According to the Commissioner Determination 2.62, it states that all pre-K to 12 school district faculty or staff, including all teachers, substitute teachers, student teachers, school administrators, paraprofessional staff, and support staff, as well as contractors working in a P through 12 school or school district setting, must have testing performed for COVID-19 at least once per week, but may be permitted to opt out of mandatory weekly screening testing if they provide documentation of being fully vaccinated. Nowhere in the Commissioner's determination did it mention parents were included in this testing or vaccination to enter this district's buildings. Many parents, including myself and my husband, are mad. We are mad this protocol is being implemented, a protocol that was not addressed or stated in the reopening plan in the August public reopening plan meeting, nor at the start of the school year. It was heard through word of mouth in mid-September that those protocols would be a requirement to volunteer and to be involved in our child's school hours experiences. Only after emails were flying into the inbox of the PTA president and Ms. Burns, out of frustration and disappointment, was this policy confirmed. Speaking with parents across 20-plus districts about the policy set forth in West Islip, I found that all those districts are not requiring parents to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test when volunteering for indoor or outdoor events at the school. All they require of parents who volunteer is that they wear a mask when inside the school buildings. Districts like Bayshore, Farmingdale, Lindenhurst, Longwood, Lynbrook, Massapequa, Mineola, Plain Edge, Plainview, Riverhead, Sachem, Sayville, Seaford, Shore and Wadham River, Smithtown, South Country, West Babylon, West Hampton Beach, William Floyd, to name a few.
Because this is clearly not a requirement according to CDC, DOH, or the Commissioner, it seems that this was a decision made by the superintendent based on opinion over anything else. In private conversations, members of the board stated that they felt confident that this was something that could be rectified and that the superintendent had come up with the policy. They also verified that they, as a board, have the authority to overrule the superintendent on this policy as they have final say. If that is true, then this protocol should be reevaluated as a whole board with no coercion from anybody, including faculty or staff. It is well documented at this point that the vaccinated can catch COVID, spread it, and can even die from COVID. Therefore, if you all, as well as faculty and staff, have concerns with parents entering the buildings during school hours, but let's not forget not attending after-school events and activities without masks or knowledge of vaccination status, then why is it not required for everyone to show proof of a negative COVID test when volunteering for school events? You talk about fair and equitable treatment, yet you are not practicing what you preach. You are separating people into groups. You are pitting parents against each other. You are pitting parents against teachers. We are supposed to be in a partnership with teachers to educate our children, yet we are being left out of the classrooms and schools at every opportunity possible. We are coming up on 2 years of this. When will you say enough is enough? When will you recognize that parent involvement is important? Many other districts on the island, as I pointed out, are not requiring the proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. They are working with the parents and staff to allow parents to be involved in their child's school experience during a time when so much has already been taken away from their childhood. We cannot use the excuse of we are protecting the children when other districts have continued to allow parent involvement without these protocols, or the district allows parents, staff, students, faculty to enjoy outdoor activities and sporting events after school, plenty with no masks being worn. The one thing COVID doesn't do is discriminate, yet here West Islip is. So I have 2 questions to ask again. Why was this protocol put into place without full involvement of the board and after the school year had already begun? And why do you feel it's okay to discriminate against parents who want to be involved in their child's educational experience?
Back at the September and October board meeting, we did not have parents coming into our schools at all. And the board charged me with coming up with a plan that would allow parents to slowly work their way and back into the district and to continue to open up all of the activities that we possibly could for our students, which ultimately is the reason we're here. Everybody else that works with children closely during the school day, every single person, teachers, staff, student teachers, substitute teachers, vendors, contractors, support providers, every one of them test weekly or provide us with proof of vaccination in order to test out. I do not see the difference if we have parents coming to work with our students in a close environment. I don't see them as any different than any other person that works in this district, and I will continue to make that recommendation to the Board of Education until the numbers in this community get better. You can hold Tuesday on any day, and you will know that we have some of the highest rates of transmission. You can go back and look at, you asked me to respond, and I am responding. Mrs. Floria, I will call you tomorrow and we can continue our conversation.
Thank you so much.
All right, before Ms. Calder speaks, we'll have Nicole Wynn come down. You can wait.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Calder. So what I'm about to speak about, I do not expect answers on tonight, but I would hope you would truly listen to my information and questions in order to make strides in a positive direction. On November 16th of this year, the New York State Department of Health released their updated nursing home visitation guidelines, which were put into effect immediately. In summary, these guidelines state, visitation is now allowed for all residents at all times. Facilities can no longer limit the number of visits or number of visitors. If a community's transmission level is high, all residents and visitors must wear a face mask. However, if the transmission area is low to moderate, fully vaccinated residents and visitors do not have to wear a mask unless immunocompromised. If a resident tests positive, they still can have visitors in their room, as well as all other residents in the facility can have visitors as prior to the exposure. Protocol states that all families must be made aware of the positive resident, potential risk of involved by continuing to visit, and the infected patient's visitors have to wear full PPE during visitation. Visitor testing is not required. All facilities may ask a visitor about vaccination status, however, visitors are not required to show proof of vaccination. Why then, if elderly, sick, high-risk individuals in a medical facility are moving towards a more normal situation, are we continuing to go nowhere in the West Islip schools? Why are all parents not allowed to be involved with all pre-COVID activities, and a lottery has been drawn for classmates to see their friends play in school sports? Why, Ms. Burns, are you requiring proof of vaccination or negative COVID test to enter our children's schools when it's not a DOH requirement? And why, Mr. Tussey and the rest of the board, are you allowing Ms. Burns to do this? Several other schools are only requiring masks for entry into their schools. Why is West Islip making it harder for parents to enter the schools to participate in their children's special occasions and missing out on precious moments we will never get back? Why are Manitouk teachers being allowed to choose if they want parents in the classroom for holiday parties and voting no? All along you have said your hands are tied, which is not the full truth. You, Ms. Burns, have made your policies stricter than the DOH. You have also said that the schools are not medical facilities. Why then are you requesting proof of vaccination status or negative COVID test to enter the building? Skilled nursing facilities are allowing more than our West Islip schools. Our surrounding school districts, including West Babylon and Bayshore, are allowing parents into the schools with just masks. Ms. Burns, I ask you for parental choice. It should be up to the parents if they feel comfortable entering the schools and should not have to disclose medical information in order to do so. Everyone else who I stand in front of tonight continues to remain silent and follow your policies because it's the easy way out. The board's silence is due to complacency and unwillingness to stand for what's right. Please stop this madness that is happening in our schools and let the parents start building memories with their children again. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking so openly. So we have Ms. Nguyen. We'll call up Ms. Ortilli. Can speak next? Well, I thought Ms. Burns did answer, but sure. We did have a lengthy discussion on our stand, and our stances remain that in an effort to maintain consistency with the mandates that we have in place, we're going to continue with the proof of negative COVID test or vaccine at least through the holidays, and that's what we feel is best to keep everybody safe and healthy.
Good evening. I'm going to get right to it because I don't want to waste any of my time. But there are rules put into place. Rules that we don't all agree with, but follow them because that's what's being asked of us and that's what we're supposed to do. For example, I do not want my children masked in school. My children don't like wearing masks to school, but those are the rules. And if they want to go to school and see their friends, this is what they need to do. Another example, last spring, my children were exposed to a family member who tested positive for COVID, so we followed the rules. My children stayed home for the required quarantine and were tested to ensure that they were not sick before returning to school. Month after month, we come to these meetings and beg you to give us, the parents of these children, the freedom of choice. We want the choice on whether or not to mask our children, and soon enough, when it becomes a mandate, we'll be making the choice to pull our children from these schools rather than to vaccinate. It has recently come to the community's attention via social media that Mr. Tussey made a choice for his child. We are not happy over this. Does everyone know what I'm referring to here tonight? I'll remind you just in case. For those of you that don't know, Mr. Tussey allowed members of his immediate family to break quarantine and attend a sports dinner. Please understand that this has absolutely nothing to do with the children involved. This has to do everything with Mr. Tussey's parenting and his role as Board of Education President. Anthony Tussey made the choice for his child to break quarantine and attend a dinner with many other people, which inadvertently made a decision for all those people at the dinner too. Last I heard, we were all in this together, correct? Yeah. This not only breaks the quarantine rules, but it also shows that the rules don't apply to him. I'm asking for answers on this tonight. Ms. Burns, you said earlier that you are proud of the leadership. Are you proud of that he made that decision? You're proud of that? Does the Board of Ed agree with the actions of Mr. Tussey to break quarantine? Are you going to sweep this under rug? Because if there's any behavior that warrants resignation, this is it. As you said earlier tonight, you trusted the experts. You trusted your pediatrician. I'm letting you know I'm an expert on my children. They won't be wearing masks to school anymore. You can trust me too. The last question I want to ask, what are the repercussions when my children don't wear masks to school? Because I'm also wanting to know what the repercussions are for Mr. Tussey at this time.
Well, listen, I already addressed my situation.
That's
and I
fine.
don't
So
wanna
when my children don't
hold
wear
on one
masks,
second.
I won't be answering questions
is that I did not intentionally go out and try to break any rules. I readily admitted to my mistake and I apologized for it. And I think the difference is that I did not make a conscious decision to do something that I know or thought was wrong. I followed the advice of my doctor and I've made a decision as a parent. Okay, folks, we're not going to handle things this way. So if you have something you'd like to say, please, you can come up.
Mr. Tussey, you said that you wouldn't be answering questions tonight, but that's what you're here to do. You're here for us. You taking the advice of an expert, I'm telling you, just like I'm sure you're an expert on your children, and honestly, I would have wanted my child to attend that dinner also, because we don't want them to miss special events, but all of you are making us miss those special events with our kids.
So we're here as a Board of Education, and the public session does not technically require us to answer your questions. With that being said, we will answer questions when we can, and sometimes we don't answer questions because, as I've said previously, we need to go back and research the questions and make sure we give you the appropriate answer. As far as anything you're specifically asking me about my family and my child, I thought I addressed that already.
The last thing I'll say is you are not a good representation of this community. You are not. Because all of these people over here, we're here fighting for everyone. You made a decision just for you, just for your family. That's not what we're about. We want it for everybody. Freedom for all. What you did and how you responded to this is absolutely disgusting. You are abusing your power.
Thank you. All right, and before Ms. Sotilli speaks, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this name right. It's Victoria Evangelinos. We'll come down next. All right, Mrs. Sotilli.
Okay. Good evening, West Islip Board of Education and Administration. I wanted to start by thanking you for your letter in support of choice regarding masks, testing, and vaccinations. With each board meeting, we see more and more parents show up and speak out regarding their concerns over current and potential mandates and their desire for parental choice. The letter that you wrote shows us that you've been listening and you're doing your part to advocate for our children and our rights as parents, to make the medical decisions that we feel are best for our children. What lies ahead in our future is very uncertain. Many local politicians have shared that this vaccination has the potential to be mandated for school and legislative sessions in Albany as early as January or February of 2022. While I pray that this day never comes, I'm still well aware that being proactive and prepared in the event that it does is essential. That's why so many of us are here today. We don't want to show up late to this party. We don't want to request that you ask that the state reverse its mandate once it's already been set. We want you to continue to stand with us proactively and do all that you can, everything that you can, to support parental choice and medical freedom for our children. Tonight, my request is simple. I simply ask that you continue to fight really hard and to keep our children in school where they belong, regardless of their vaccination status or any other personal medical decision made by parents. Despite what the future may hold, I ask that you continue to fight for our children, for our community, for medical freedom and parental choice. We're thankful for your support, and we want to continue to work with you and alongside of you. Our children want to be with their teachers, their friends, and their classmates. Please continue to be brave, and please continue to make decisions that feel morally right. Stand up for our children, stand up for medical freedom, stand up for parental choice. Be brave, and keep America the land of the free. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sotilli. Coming up next, we can have Kevin Boland, if I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, I'm here to talk about class parties. I know this question was brought up today, but we never came up to a decision. On the last meeting, Mr. Tassi said that parents' involvement in school should start right now. Also, I spoke to Mrs. Burns, and you said that, yes, if the teachers don't mind, parents should be allowed to go to class parties. I just do not understand why we cannot go 2 people per class party for monitor and support our children. While other districts, they allowed 4 people per child per class party, or even 2 people. But there are districts that allow people to come. Why we keep parents away? And I'm so glad that Mrs. Williams is here, because you keep pointing fingers at one another. You say, oh, this is a school decision, this is a board decision. I would just like to attend my child class party. And in general, like my child next week, he's going to be star of the week. So we're supposed to come and do something fun with them. But now we have to do it online. I don't mind to do testing, I don't mind doing vaccinations, but I want parents, when are we going to be allowed to come to school?
I have to follow up with you tomorrow. I have to find the circumstances and see what the situation is, because I'm not aware that this is a situation.
But you called me on the phone, and you personally said that you don't mind 1 or 2 people per class party.
I said we were working toward that in all of our buildings, and that is the truth, so I need to follow up and find out what the situation is in each of the buildings.
But this is almost half a year already. It's only 3 class parties left.
And I will follow up.
When?
Okay.
It's like our that lady who called, she's like, I'm gonna circle back to you. I'm really so glad that we all here, we can decide when it's gonna happen. We can separate the dates. It can be Mondays. First grade parties can be Tuesdays. It can be one person per party, but why we not allow parents to come to school?
Could I ask, and you don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable, which elementary school are you referring to?
It seems that you guys doing everything. You guys doing everything to keep us away from our children. Yes, that's why I'm so happy that Mrs. Williams is here.
We will follow up with you tomorrow.
But tomorrow you're gonna call me and then Mrs. Williams gonna say that it's Department of Health or whatever, Board of Education. Why we cannot come up with a decision right now? I've been talking about this since September.
That's because conversations need to be had, that's not going to be had in public here, and then Ms. Burns, as she said, will follow up with you.
I came on September PTA meeting, I asked this question. I came on November meeting when we missed already Halloween parade, and you said that parents' involvement starts right now. So when is it starting?
So just to clarify, you want to know specifically why there's no parties allowed? Not that parents are not allowed into it?
No, why are parents not allowed? If you want, I'm gonna provide you negative COVID. If you want, it has to be like whatever you need.
Okay, so I think one of the things that you and I spoke about was the word parties.
Yes.
Because I think there is a misconception about what exactly happens when parents join us in our classrooms. And that needs to be clarified. Okay, we are an instructional institution, and we certainly do. I have to be honest with you, I find it incredibly rude when you do that, when I am trying to answer something and work with you.
I understand. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, so Mrs. Evangelou, I think we need to clarify what that means when we invite people into our schools, and we will do that. I will follow up tomorrow, Mrs. Morrison and I will follow up to determine, and you are right, there is equity across all of the buildings. We will follow up to see where there are opportunities and where we are more limited right now, okay? And we will get back to you by early next week.
I understand, but why are teachers voting on that? If you said that in order to get to the building, you have to be vaccinated or you have to have a negative COVID test. Okay, let's do this. But why are we not allowed to come even with negative COVID test or even with vaccination? And we always had the class parties. I've been mom for forever. It's like a little holiday party when they do like celebration and two parents come to help.
I remember, yes, absolutely. We will follow up.
I hope by the time you follow up, we're still gonna be able to attend our children's parties in December, not in the spring. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and before Mr. Boland, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so before you speak, we could just, we'll call down Tony Amantello. And please, hopefully, we can continue to maintain so that we're not forced to recess at this time. Thank you. I don't know, Tony, I don't know if you heard me, if you're out there. Yes? Okay, great. All right, Mr. Boland.
Good evening. Ms. Burns, a quick question for you. There seems to be an issue tonight about entering the school. Obviously, the state's involved, local health departments. What specifically are you responsible for from a policy standpoint regarding entering the school, regarding masks, regarding everything we're talking about, right? Obviously, this is the biggest hot topic of our lives. So what are you specifically responsible for in terms of what everyone's speaking about here tonight?
My role is to determine based on the information that I have in consultation with my stakeholders, my staff, to determine what I believe to be in the best interest of our students and staff and make a recommendation to the Board of Education.
Okay, thank you. That's pretty clear. In your letter that you released, you're asking the governor to encourage local health departments to provide clear data. What data are you accessing to make these decisions, and where are you getting it from?
Well, therein lies our problem, because there is a mandate from the CDC and from the State Department of Health, and we would like to know on what they base that And in reality, what we're really asking for is what will it take to get the masks eliminated?
You mentioned before that there's, you said a number of about 27,000. Is that how many, is that the population of West Islip?
I believe that's about the population.
Okay. If this sheet is, I'm going to circle back to that, this whole kind of thread here. If there's a surplus of about $36 million, right, that's a lot of capital that you personally have access to, your teammates here as well. How come you're not doing any research within our population of 27,000? Is that proactively being done? Are you reaching out to, I don't know, groups, focus groups? Are you finding medical data to back these decisions up? How is that being accessed?
I don't understand your question.
How are you obtaining data? There's a lot of
That
resources.
is not my role to obtain that data.
But
The data
it is.
I referenced earlier is the data that I find on the Suffolk County Department of Health website and information that is provided to me. But I am not a statistician, I am not a psychometrician, I am an educator.
Okay, that's fair, but you have a lot of capital to access, I guess, proper data to make these decisions. So,
Are you talking about our reserves?
yeah, I don't understand, like what that could be used for this big crisis that we're all involved in.
So, you know what I'm going to do, Mr. Bolin and Mrs. Pilati, perhaps if you could reach out to Mr. Bolin tomorrow and provide him with some information as far as the reserves
That'd be great,
go.
thank you. And I think a lot of the issues here, are transparency. So the Parent Square app is amazing. You can push information out that very rapidly. 27,000 people, there's about 4,000 children. You figure 2 parents per household, give or take. It's about 29% of the town's population that could be receiving important data that may go against, maybe your decision making, but it's going to get to the proper hands. So there could be a 2-pronged approach where you publish it and you also push it out.
I'm not using any data so that you don't have access to yourself.
It's transparency. There's a link on your website buried in a public website with terrible infrastructure, hidden. It just appears that the transparency is not there. It looks like it's being hidden. I think that's pretty fair to say.
Which link are you talking about? Because we can move that if that's a problem.
The ARPESSER.
We could make sure that's put on the front page of the website.
That'd be great. Is there a way to have that sent out via Parent Square as well?
We will not do that, no, sir.
Well, can I ask why?
For the same reason I answered earlier in the meeting, it only reaches 1/3 of the population. I think that's enough.
So I mean, that's probably the most important part of the population. These are parents that have children in the school district. I mean, I think that's a really important third. And like I said, transparency. It feels like that portion of the public is being ostracized or targeted or, removed from the decision making.
Thank you for your suggestion.
Say that again?
I said thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you.
Okay, and I see we have Tony, and then coming up, the wait could be Catherine. All right, Tony?
Hello there. My name is Tony Abatello. I use she, her pronouns, and I was a 2019 graduate of West Islip High School. As a recent graduate, I believe there is still progress to be made in terms of expanding on a diversified and inclusive curriculum. While I understand the curriculum does come down from the state, the implementation of that curriculum does not. There is such a disconnect between historical events and their causes in the case of U.S. history. Yet we are capable in showing it with other countries, i.e. Germany losing World War I led to the rise of Hitler, Jews being pushed into the ghettos, and the invasion leading to World War II. Yet we teach the New Deal and the Civil Rights Movement as separate pieces of history. If the New Deal had truly solved all of our economic and social problems in this country, we would not have had more work for civil rights activists to do. And if civil rights movement had truly solved racism, we would not be seeing Black Lives Matter today. Yet we have a lack of historical context surrounding our continued learning. With little outside perspective, we lose the uninterrupted story of the US. We should be introducing students to more than just one perspective before they leave these halls. In my 4 years of high school, I was never assigned a single book during the year written by a woman or an LGBTQ author, and only one written by a person of color, letters from Birmingham jail. It is no wonder we have a community full of intolerance with these voices not being shared. The standards set by the state are all incredibly vague. Determine one or more central ideas in a text and analyze its development, and cite specific textual evidence to support analysis of primary and secondary sources. These can all be met with different required books and sources written by women, people of color, disabled and LGBTQ folk, and authors of different religions and socioeconomic backgrounds. As someone who has graduated 2 years ago and is now in a diverse and international college, I can say that not having this background left me steps behind my current peers. Learning from different perspectives helps develop critical thinking skills, which are imperative in succeeding in college and our global society. This can only help students. Hearing the same perspective over and over only leaves students at a disadvantage. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony, very much. We have Kathy next, and waiting in line will be Claudia Worley.
Good evening, Catherine Abatello. So I want to speak on a couple of things tonight. First, since the last meeting, many of our residents took part in something called Operation Shoe Drop. If I understand it correctly, this protest was an effort to make a statement by those opposed to a potential vaccine mandate. Representative of each child that would be lost in a potential exit from the district, a pair of shoes was displayed by their parents on school grounds. As a community organizer and advocate, I have no issue with their right to protest. In fact, I applaud it. I am a fierce defender of the First Amendment. What I do take issue with, however, is the fact that this protest was used as an opportunity to draw offensive comparisons between a loss of personal liberties and the Holocaust. Many other residents I have spoken with, some of whose ancestors were lost in the Holocaust, were deeply affected by postings of the images on social media. For them, it was utterly painful. Organizers of the event were unapologetic, insisting that the comparison was fair and accurate. They were unable to see how the display was offensive. Mrs. Burns, while I commend you for ordering the removal of the display, I am disappointed that you cited...
Excuse me, I'm going to hold on for 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, at no time has anybody interrupted any of you when you were speaking, and I'd like you to extend the same courtesy.
Mrs. Burns, will I commend you for ordering the removal of the display? I am disappointed that you cited only their failure to get approval as the reason. This was an opportunity to call this out for what it was, to send a message loud and clear that anti-Semitism has no place here.
Stop.
It was a missed opportunity, and I am sorry, but this is the reason why we desperately need to expand on DEI in our curriculum, because the fact that the majority of this room does not understand how the imagery was offensive is case in point.
So inconsiderate. Why?
Now, before I go on,
Guys, stop. You don't want to get shut down. Come on.
Okay, listen, we all have high tensions and high emotions. Let's be the best people that we can be, and let's give each other the respect that they deserve.
my emotions are running high as well. I'm a resident of this town for 22 years, and I am hurt when I see displays like that in my community. And yes, this is my community too. Before I go on, I want to give warning. This is a sensitive topic, which may be triggering for some. I will pause for just a moment in case anyone wishes to leave the room or remove their children. Let's talk about Eli Fritchley. Eli Fritchley lived in Tennessee. He was a middle school student who liked SpongeBob and playing the trombone. As a member of the LGBTQ community, Eli was taunted, bullied, and endlessly harassed by his classmates. While he didn't always show it on the outside, Eli carried a pain others cannot begin to understand. Over this past Thanksgiving weekend, Eli took his own life. Now, Eli Fritchley lived nearly 1,000 miles away in Tennessee, but the story of his torment is being told 100 times over by students right here in our own community. Some of them are here tonight. I want to make very clear that this is not a case of a few bad apples, even if the bullying and threats are coming from a select group. This is about a culture of intolerance, the tone of which is set from the top down. So we need to decide, are we okay with this? Is this who we are? Mr. McCann spoke poignantly at the start of last month's meeting, painting a picture of a West Islip that rallies around one another in hard times, that includes and supports one another. And in many ways, that may be true. But what is happening here is also who we are, as long as we allow it by looking the other way. I will say it again. It is the role of education not only to embrace tolerance, but to teach it. Words alone are no longer enough. We need action. We need to send a message loud and clear that hate has no home here. And it begins with each one of you. So I will ask each one of you, and I really do want a response. What is it going to take?
So I'm going to answer on behalf of everyone, and I think the answer is that we don't have an answer for that particular question. And when you say, what is it going to take, the first thing that comes to my mind is the story that you just told of Eli. And I know what I don't want it to take, which is what you just referenced. So I'd like to think that through initiatives and with our faculty and our staff and our administration, we're going to continue to try to do what we think is best for all students. And I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate you coming up here and speaking and being as brave as you are and understanding it as a sensitive topic that not everybody necessarily sees eye to eye with. But as both an educator, a parent, and a board member, I think everybody wants the same, which is the right for all of our students to thrive in a safe and healthy environment, and not just their physical safety, but their emotional safety as well.
But that is not happening right now.
So,
And I applaud your earnest wanting to make things better, but the reality is that right now in this moment, it is not happening. We have students that are living day in and day out in fear, some who no longer attend school here because of that fear, that are excluded, that are taunted. And we're allowing it. Day after day is going by and it's still happening. So whatever we're doing, whatever efforts are being put forward to this end, are failing. If there's one student that feels unsafe, that feels that they can no longer attend school in their own community out of fear, then we are failing. And that is not acceptable.
you know, I heard a school administrator once say that bullying is not an overarching issue in their school district. And I followed up and I said, well, how many students do you have, you know, in your district? And she said, or in high school it was, and it was approximately 2,000. So I said, well, even if we're looking at just 1%, you know, you can statistically say 99%, yeah, it's not a problem. But what about the 1%? And sometimes it's easy to overlook that 1% because we're more focused on the 99%. And so the best thing that I can tell you right now is that we will make sure to follow this conversation up, both as a board and as an administrative team, and investigate and see why your feelings are the way they are. And hopefully we can do things to rectify that.
With all due respect, I was here last month, and I was told the same thing, that the concern is shared, that we are looking to do more to address this, and yet another month has gone by where nothing has changed.
Okay, well, duly noted, and like I said, we're going to see what we can do. So I thank you so much for being here tonight. All right, and before Ms. Worley speaks, Doreen Hanschel, you can come down to the next podium. All right, Ms. Worley, thank you.
I just want to touch on that for a second. I was one of the people who did lead the way for the shoes on the fence. And as a great-grandchild of people who fled the Holocaust, I do want to say that I'm sorry that that's the way that it came off, but that was not the intention.
It is also for military.
Can you pause the clock for a second?
Like fallen soldiers?
I'm well aware of that.
Shoes.
It was never meant as a disrespect in that way, and we do apologize that it came across that way. That was not the intention. And had somebody, I would gladly would have had that conversation with anybody, because I don't want anybody to feel that way.
It was for military and Jews, bad choice.
Again, I apologize. I don't come from a military family, but I too come from a family that fled the Holocaust to Israel, and now I'm here.
Both, military and Jewish.
So I apologize to everybody that was offended.
Okay, well, Mrs. Worley, I can actually appreciate your stance at what you did not intend, because I just went through it myself, and as you
What we do
apologize.
in this community is meant to be for everyone, and I get that does come across divided. We do have a loud voice, and we are out there, and I respect everyone's side on everything. And our intentions are never to make anybody in this district feel left out. And I sincerely mean that, because as a child, I was left out of a lot. So I do not want any child to feel left out of anything, no matter what your stance is, what your belief is. I'm not getting up here just to put on face, but I do sincerely mean that. As a child, I did come from a Jewish background, but I also came from a Palestinian background. I have an internal conflict, and I have been terrorized for it my entire life, personally blamed for 9/11.
I totally hear you on that.
So my intention is to join this community, and I am fighting like hell to get everybody on the same side, whether we voted the same way, we view the same thing, we practice at the same church, we practice at the same synagogue, whatever it may be. I want our community together. I'm tired of fighting with everyone. It's exhausting.
Then why don't you join us?
I would love for both of our sides to join us. I'm sorry. We have a revelation, please. I mean that sincerely. I want...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, can we... I do not want to be insensitive, and I appreciate the conversation you guys need to have, but I want to refocus
I will
us.
reach out to you on Facebook.
No, after.
Or after. All right, back to my actual point of this. This has been brought to my attention. I'm aware of the situation. I had a couple of parents call me about it, and I'm just going to jump right into it. Per the Manitouk security guard that we've been speaking to, the Udall security guard never locks the gates on his end of the soccer fields. The fence that runs through the woods behind the tennis courts at Udall is also broken. There are multiple access points to get onto school grounds and not only access Udall, but also Manitouk. Considering the security threat with the student that has been threatening Udall students on Instagram, etc., police are aware, the principal is aware, and West Islip has issued a notice to the student in question to stay off school grounds. In light of recent events in our country involving school threats, why are the gates being left unlocked? If security concerns were so important that they were cited for not allowing parents to attend Halloween parades, then why isn't this being handled with much more caution? And I just want to go right into my next thing, and then whatever. That's fine, everyone can answer. The next thing is I received a copy of an email, and I'm not sure if anybody else has. It was an email sent to the parents of the Eastport South Manor Central School District, in which it stated that, in quotes, all districts are now required to ensure that nurses and coaches can address the treatment and monitoring of students who exhibit signs and symptoms of sudden cardiac arrest. Has West Islip implemented this, and why, if they did? Not that it's a bad thing to have, but what's the preface around it?
Have trained our coaches, many of our teachers, and all of our administrators in CPR and the use of the AED for years. We've been doing that for years.
So this is not new?
This is not new to West Islip.
Okay. And then if you wanted to comment on the first point about
I'm sorry, the gates are the never-ending saga.
Yes.
And you know the gate between Boulevard and the Udall Field?
Yes.
Every time we lock it up, somebody cuts a hole through it.
Okay.
That's been going on for literally decades.
Okay.
Which gate are you talking about?
That gate, the gate that goes from Boulevard / Harvest through the soccer field
I will speak with Ms. DeBasi again in the morning, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
But I want you, it's a recurring thing. We fix it, they break it. We fix it, they break it.
That's fine. And I know you probably legally, whatever it may be, ethically cannot touch on the subject of what's happening at the schools, especially Manitowoc this week. Is there any way to be a little bit more transparent about events that are happening in the schools? I'm not saying you have to give any details, just alert the community that, hey, we're aware of what's going on, we're handling it, we will give you an update further on. Because I was trying to walk into dance and my phone was going off about people saying, what's going on, do you know what's happening? I had to get in touch with other people who had to get in touch with the principal just to get somebody to calm down because their child was freaking out. And my daughter's at Manitowoc, she's a 5-year-old, and the thought of her hearing that the school is going into lockdown or whatever, this is hypothetical.
So it took, some things have taken on a life of their own.
Correct.
Through social media.
Of course.
Okay? If there's a threat, we inform the community.
Okay.
I sent a letter to the entire community on November 12th.
Yes.
Right? The most recent issue has to do with a student, not a West Islip student.
Correct.
Also, social media said he was a former West Islip student. He was not.
Correct.
Never a West Islip student who has been on school grounds during the school day in doing a variety of things. Some of which are totally harmless, okay? But it's been distracting, it's been disruptive, and he did disrupt one of our games at Udall.
Yes.
So we have reached out to his parent, we did reach out to the police.
Yes.
And he is not allowed on school grounds any longer.
Yes.
But there were no threats. I know there were some postings, the police looked at his postings, because gratefully, one of our parents shared the information with us.
Correct.
So we were able to get a screenshot of what he was posting.
Correct.
But the children that were involved were interviewed by the building principal, and the police and all of the kids did not feel that this rose to the level of being any kind of a threat. But if there is a threat, we always tell the parent.
Absolutely.
Because inevitably, then the incorrect information gets out on social media.
Absolutely, and I think that would be helpful to, if you would have, not you would have, but in the event that that does happen and the information gets pushed out to social media and it gets skewed, as it always does on social media, for a correction or, hey, we are aware.
To be fair, I have to tell you, we'd be doing it every day.
That's fair. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
All right, thank you. Before Ms. Hansel speaks, Lisa Curley, you can come up, you're next on the podium.
Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody. Just want to point out that the word Christmas has the word Christ in it. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Happy birthday to them. So I have a couple of things I want to comment about. I had sent you all a letter following up from the last board meeting about a few things. Before I get into that, I just want to say, at the end of the day, you guys must go home and say, wow, I can't make anybody happy. And with that, you know, my prayers are always with all of you as always. First thing I want to say regarding children and bullying, I alluded to that in the letter that I wrote to everybody. And I shared some of my own experience as a anti-bullying speaker for over 20 years. And if we're all waiting for bullying to disappear, it's not going to. It's a sad, depressing thing to say, but it's not going to disappear. One of the things I've learned through the years is to teach children the difference between facts and feelings. And Ben Shapiro, if you know who he is, he's got a great line, and he actually says facts don't care about your feelings, which doesn't mean he doesn't care about people. It means that sometimes we have to think more objectively, and my own personal journey as an educator and a person, I realize that because I tend to be a very sentimental person. So with the issue of bullying, I did mention a lot about teachers and the teacher's role in the classroom. And I just want to just not get into the whole thing, because I already wrote it to you, but the teacher's role is critical. And I've mentioned this before, and I know people are very sensitive here tonight, and I totally understand that, and my concerns and my love for children is for all children. One of the things that's really important to teach children is resilience. And one of the things I try to explain is the more we hone in on specific identities and we don't look at the children more as a whole, what happens with human nature and adolescents is when they are told not to do something, the reverse psychology often happens. And they will highlight and pick on kids more. So we've done that in our culture, in our society, and what we're doing is we're saying we're all inclusive, but yet we're being completely non-inclusive by separating each individual identity out there. Instead of letting just children sort of kind of figure it out for themselves in a way, not without adult involvement. But what I'm saying is that I've said...
All right, we're going to ask the same, just
I'm
to
going to
let
ask
people
for my
speak, please.
3 or 4 minutes, seconds rather back for that. Okay, thank you. What I'm trying to say is that when children are in school together, in a public school education, every single child, regardless of their color, regardless of their faith, regardless of their identity, regardless of anything, is just as important as every other child. Because what I'm trying to say, and I know, I get it, I understand we all have our passions and our causes, but if we label everything and we have color-coded things around our classrooms, and we only, if that sticker, for instance, which you all know, if it said every single child with every single issue, I would love the graphic art department to design a new sticker that represents all children, that when those children walk into that classroom, every single child is in a, well, there's no such thing as a safe space. There really isn't. It doesn't exist. It only exists in God.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to finish this, please.
Thank you.
Literally hate speech.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we're just, again, listen, ladies and gentlemen, again, I recognize everyone's feelings and everyone's emotions,
Okay.
but we do want to
So-
get through this, so if we could just try
I'm
our
gonna be
best to maintain any outbursts, we'll just control our impulses. Thank you.
Okay. People are going to disagree, okay? We have to recognize that hate speech is a very tricky, slippery slope, because difference of opinion is not hate, okay? It's not. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, is regarding the masks. Okay, I commend all the parents who speak about the masks and the mandate and all the things they're trying to advocate for. They are so well versed with their data and their involvement, which I'm really grateful to them for that. One of the things I don't know, I think a lot of the times when I come and speak to you about education in general, it's not the frustration I have with all of you necessarily. It's really coming from New York State. And I know that your hands are tied to some degree, but I really wish there'd be some kind of pushback, a little bit of pushback. I don't know how the channels would happen with New York State, but a lot of the things I see what's happening is like we're sitting here talking all about masks and vaccine mandates when our borders are being rushed with no patrolling of them, and we're fighting over taking masks off.
What is Babylon rushing into West Islip?
Anyway, my point is that we're so concerned at a community level, a state level, states around the country level, but yet our borders are being flooded with people who aren't being tested, who aren't being vaccinated, and it just kind of makes you think, it's kind of a common sense question, why is that happening? Finally, lastly, this hopefully will make everybody happy. And if it doesn't, I can't help that. Because we are a country, we're a people who are free, who have the right to express their opinions with no fear of harm. And the last thing I would like to say is on May 5th is the National Day of Prayer. So we have a lot of things we celebrate, a lot of events that we do. And I'm asking as a board administration group, if you can come together, perhaps we can plan. I'd be more than happy to help with it. Maybe other people who would be interested in helping with it, to try to put something together for our children for prayer. Because regardless of all of our issues, whether you agree with me or not, perhaps we can have something that we can give the children, something that's hopeful. Because when you talked about the survey and all those different things you're trying to do for children with SEL, with the emotional and social development, I really feel that while it's not a popular thing to say, I think prayer is very important. From wherever you come from, whatever stance you have, God loves all of us. He doesn't choose, he doesn't care what we are, Republicans, Democrats, gay, straight, whatever, he does love everybody. And if we can give the children something to hope, to have that higher authority of God, and National Day prayer, it is national, so it is recognized by our government, at least it is right now, that would be an amazing thing that we could put together for our students. Because I think so many kids... Yes, atheists can participate too. Because atheism is a choice. It's a choice to not have faith. So that's my suggestion. We can come together and put something together for National Prayer Day on May 5th to give the kids something that they can look to for some kind of guidance. as opposed to relying only solely on yourself.
Okay,
Thank you
well,
for listening.
Well, thank you, and your suggestion is noted. Thank you. All right, before Ms. Gurley speaks, Ms. Rivera will be our last speaker, and you can wait at the next podium if you like. Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the letter that you wrote, Mrs. Burns, and the Board of Ed regarding vaccinations and masks and metrics and all that. I do appreciate that. I just wonder, how come it didn't go, like, it wasn't, what's that word? Thank you. It wasn't dispersed the way that typical things are, like on Parent Square. How come it was just on the district website? I'm just curious.
Absolutely no reason. We can do that, but typically I don't think I've shared legislative communications, but no reason, Mrs. Crowe.
Okay. If that could be shared on the, Parent Square and the parent portal and all that, I think that would be very, helpful. To the point that everybody was talking about here, and this is not what I wanted to talk about, but years ago, when Sandy Hook happened, Mrs. Burns, you and I had talked about another district, I think it was Port Jeff, or I can't remember right now, but we talked about there was a certain program that the school had, and it was like an anonymous tip reporting line for students who felt in crisis, for parents, for whomever, and what they're talking about, and what everybody's talking about, it might be helpful to try and find that program, whatever it was, because when people are in crisis, they should be heard, no matter who they are, no matter what they are. So, that was an aside. The one question I wanted to ask that hasn't been asked so far is, so last week at the middle school, there was a volleyball game, and there was a situation, again, where a couple of students were not respectful and not defending those students at all. And the problem I have with this new lottery system is it's winter, and our kids have already not socialized. They've not socialized to the point where there is this divide that's happening in our community, whether it's what you ladies are talking about or what they're talking about or what anybody's talking about. There are so many divides in our community, and things like who doesn't like, actually I don't like basketball, but who doesn't like to go and cheer on their friends, and the fact that they have to fill out a Google form and then hear back, and it's only their ID that can get them into the game. It's just, I think it's kind of adding to that, and these kids, it's winter, and what else are they gonna do but then go hang out at 7-Eleven and ride their bikes in the middle of the street and have the other West Islip moms complain about the biker people in the street? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like there is not enough effort to get these kids back together, and being together is part of how they can work out things and make friends and socialize and do things as normal. And I know that it wasn't about the COVID numbers, and it was more about these kids, and that stinks to me.
Okay, so I couldn't agree with you more. If I told you the amount of time Mr. Haran and the two middle school principals and I spent meeting this week about this, it does have to do with the fact that we don't have the capacity, because those middle school gyms, unfortunately, are really small, especially Beach Street. We looked at all different ways to do this. It comes down to whether we limit the games to kids or we limit the games to parents and some kids. And right now, we chose to go the route to allow the athletes' parents to be there. This time last year, we weren't allowed, we couldn't even have visitors here.
Yeah, I get that.
But if you have another suggestion, we are all ears. We
Right.
just don't know another way to maintain what we know to be good practices right now and still allow everybody we want to. That night, yes, there was an incident that night, but that was wholly separate and apart. It really is about the capacity of the gyms at this point.
I get that, but at the same time, the inconsistencies that are present in that It's just,
If we could move the game to the high school, which we talked about, we would do it. We can't. We're so busy up there right now.
again, I get it, but like you can go to, I don't know, like a concert and you can do so many things and not be masked. And I don't want to get into that because we've already discussed that ad nauseum. But the point is that these kids need to be together and we need to encourage that in a safe environment. And I thought the school was supposed to be the safe environment.
We do, and this is one of the ways we need to maintain it.
Okay, just for everybody else out there, and just a minute of your time. So this, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but this is the New York State legislation bills that are on the floor right now in Assembly. And at any time, there could be an emergency meeting called or not, but they will be going back on January 6th, I believe, which is the Epiphany. Anyway, so these bills actually talk about what mandating COVID vaccines for our children would do. And if you can vote on them, I hope you vote opposed. But if you don't, I mean, you should just know that these are the things that are going on in New York, and just, if you guys can get one of these, please. Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Mrs. Perez. Okay. Our final speaker, Mrs. Rivera.
So, as being the last one, I'm sure you're happy that half of the stuff that I was going to say has already been taken care of. Mrs. Burns, I want to thank you that last month I was able to ask you where you were getting your resources from, and you quickly answered me, and I did appreciate that. You did state that West Islip was having the highest infection rates in Suffolk County. When you told me that some of your resources was Newsday, it did give me a prime, which is one of your sources of information. It helped me understand the caliber of your fear that you must be feeling. So, as somebody in healthcare, I took it upon myself to do some homework. So, as a service to you and the board, I'd like to share with you the true stats of our infections in our hospitals here in Suffolk County. With that fear you have, there are 11 hospitals in Suffolk County that are serving 1.5 million people, 912 square miles. As of the 7th, when I wrote this, there was 201 patients who were admitted for COVID or complications. There's so many zeros before that 0.0000% of people who are actually in our hospitals with, I didn't want to bore you with that. It's a very small number. I wish that your fear wasn't so high, because I could imagine what you're feeling being responsible for all of these children. I do understand. I'm not going to stand here and say that I don't. But I do fear for their mental health, and you know that. My 97-year-old grandfather just came out of the hospital with COVID. He actually didn't even know he had COVID. Came out. No, I don't even know why he actually went in. We'll go there another time. But we brought him in and he was safe and he was released. He was fine. And so are 99.9% of all of our children.
I know, because I've done my research too,
yes,
that the cases are not as severe as they have been. Of course, if you're the person that gets a severe case, you wouldn't feel the same way. I recognize that. As I've said since the beginning of the school year, my goal is to keep our schools open, in person, full-time, for every single child all year. We do not want to go back. You experienced it yourself with the hybrid model or the remote model of learning. So it's not a matter of the illness itself. It is the pervasiveness of the illness, and I think, as you know, right now, the bigger problem in the hospitals, I believe, is the flu, the regular flu, as opposed to COVID.
I can't agree to that, but I'll let you say that.
Okay. I spoke to somebody at Good Sam today, so I think they're seeing more of that. But it's not a matter of the severity of the illness that concerns me. It's the matter of the numbers, the pervasiveness of the illness. Because we do not have substitute teachers. We do not have substitute bus drivers. And West Islip is no different than many other districts across the state. and my concern is keeping us open.
Okay, Mrs. Burns, on your own website, on your dashboard, your teachers versus your students are 5% during this entire year. I do the math every day. I'm a little obsessed. 5% of our district. And as you wrote to Newsday, 3 of your teachers were positive during 900 wasteful, I'm not gonna say wasteful, for those dollars that we spent, right? 3 that were.
Those were only the ones we tested on site.
I know
And
that.
point to the governor
Yes.
is that why bother with the testing because it's not really
Yes,
picking
no,
that up.
that makes
They're picking
sense.
it up themselves.
That was a good play on words, and I actually, in that point, did appreciate your play on words with that. I actually thought it was great. Okay. But I'm just saying, I mean, I know the fear's there, and I spend my days and nights with physicians who will say, let these kids go back to normal. Because in the end run, when you're retired and these children have mental issues, I just can't, I think that we need to let these kids, I mean, for a person who has a kid in 2nd grade, which is not me, it's probably somebody here, have you ever been inside your child's school? I can't imagine that. I'm so grateful that I'm in the senior year. Thank God that I'm in the senior year. And my last thing, if we're gonna sit here and talk about unity, and I believe in it, comes from the house, my home. My child ever treated anybody's child wrong? I wanna know. If any of you ever were treated poorly by one of my kids, I don't expect them to teach my children. It happens at home. Equally, if any of you know me, which I'm not sure if some of you may, if somebody comes up here and makes a suggestion for a day of prayer, and you behave that way, don't talk to me, let's hear it. This is a public.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like we are at the point in the evening where our conversations need to be had on our own. Okay. So before we adjourn, ladies and gentlemen, I do wish you all the happiest of holidays and the healthiest new year. Motion to adjourn to executive session, please, where the board will discuss personnel and litigation. All discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, do we have any security that can come help out, please, over here?